Oh, we're live. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Dave. You all right?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, I'm all right. You're looking nice and warm there. Anyway,
I couldn't be bothered to get dressed, to be honest.
don't blame me. I threw this on a minute ago.
So we haven't got Martin yet. We're hoping he's going to pop on in a little bit. He's obviously got his title fight Saturday week, so he's busy training for that. But it's been a weekend where we've had Amanda Serrano's the first 12 rounds, 3 minute title fight. We've had a featherweight title fight in America, or in Mexico, I should say. But I think the only place to start is the baddest of the battles, Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury controversial split decision win over Francis Ngannou. How did you score it?
Hard one. First time round, I've watched it twice, just just to make sure. First time round, I had it a draw, 95 all draw, possibly edging Ngannou. I first time round, I didn't see watching it live. I didn't see Fury winning it. What rewatched it, and I think Fury did just do enough. I had him second time round 95-94, but I think it was one of them fights where it depends what you're watching. It depends who's watching. It could have went any way, and the two of the scorecards were spot on. The 96-93 for Fury was an absolute joke, and it's a bit disrespectful to Ngannou. How did you have the fight?
I didn't score it first time round because I sat down to watch it, having just about found a stream in the nick of time because I wasn't paying 25 quid or whatever the price was for that pay per view. And I thought, I'm not going to need to score this. Fury's going to dominate this, possibly even stop him. And then in round 3, Ngannou lands that check left hook, and I go, perhaps I should have been scoring this. But when I rewatched it back, I had it 95-94 Ngannou. Just for the record, this wasn't Fury's WBC. This wasn't the heavyweight title fight in the sense of Fury's WBC title, because Ngannou isn't ranked by the WBC, having never fought professionally before. But they did kindly offer up some kind of trinket for the winner. And Fury put his lineal heavyweight title on the line, and that would have been quite interesting if Francis Ngannou had become the lineal heavyweight champion of the world in his debut fight.
Absolutely, and especially with the legendary to name one of them anyway. Britain's last lineal title holder, Lennox Lewis, in attendance. So that would have been very interesting for him to lose it there. I've always sensed a bit of commotion between Lewis and Fury. I've always thought that Lewis has favoured AJ, but he's definitely changed his tune recently, and he's stuck up quite a lot for Fury, which I was pretty shocked by, to be honest.
Just to clarify, for anyone who's not sure what a lineal champion is, it's the man who beat the man who beat the man who beat the man, going back to the days of John L. Sullivan and Tommy Burns in the early Jim Corbett in the early 20th century. Obviously, Vladimir Klitschko was the last lineal heavyweight champion. Fury beat him, and no one's beat Fury since, which is why Fury claims to be the lineal heavyweight champion. So we nearly had the upset. It was nearly Ngannou. Opening rounds, I thought Fury boxed for the first round like I expected him to box for the whole fight. And in the second round, Ngannou just... It was a weird thing to see two men fighting at distance and still landing so freely. On the rare occasions that they threw, it should be added.
Yeah, I think Fury, as soon as the bell went, he come straight out, caught Ngannou with a lovely shot, and I thought, yeah, he's not getting paid for overtime here. But I think he felt one of Ngannou's shots, and I think it shocked him. And I think he normally fills fighters out in the first couple of rounds, Fury anyway. And then there was the change in round 2 where Ngannou come out southpaw, which again was another shock. Dillian White tried it when he fought Fury, but didn't quite have the know-how and the skills to deal with it. But Ngannou looked natural in both stances. I think that's the biggest thing that I take away from the fight. Ngannou looked fairly decent. Certainly knew what he was doing anyway.
It was certainly a surprise, I think, to see a novice come out, and it wasn't the most orthodox of stances. He's certainly held his hand kind of away from his chin, whereas you'd expect a novice to kind of really tuck up. But at no point did he really try and sort of get on or try and rush Fury to get on the inside. At no point did I think he was quite content to have the fight I think Fury wanted to have, and take the middle of the ring, take the centre ground, and to keep the fight at range.
Yeah, it surprised me, his ring generalship, Ngannou. He didn't look out of place for a second of the fight. He did become quite square as the fight did wear on through tiredness and fatigue, but he still just had enough strength and sort of power just to keep Fury at bay throughout. And that impressed me as well. In the clinches, Fury loves to get in there and exploit smaller men. Couldn't do it with Ngannou. Ngannou was too strong for him, and it was weird seeing Fury being pushed around so much.
It was almost amateurish at times, the way Fury would throw punches and then go in to try and hold around the waist. It was an act of desperation, almost of a fighter that was trying to survive rather than one that was trying to win.
Yeah, certainly, fully agree.
Certainly, I don't think would have looked good in the eyes of the judges, unless you're Juan Carlos Payano, who scored in 96-93. So we go to the third round. I don't think anyone saw the knockdown coming. And dare I say, had it come earlier in the rounds, I think Ngannou might have been able to force a stoppage, because Fury got up and he felt that.
Yeah. Fury ran around the ring to get away from him. Even when Wilder knocked him down in the third fight, he still wanted to stand there and trade. Even in the first fight, that the most famous knockdown of all, he still got straight up and went straight for Wilder and wanted to outman him. Whereas against Ngannou, there was something there that he didn't want to get involved. He ran away from him, and that surprised me as well. Saying that a lot, but the whole fight surprised me.
Do you know what that knockdown reminded me of? Do you remember when Gennady Golovkin fought Curtis Stevens?
Yep.
And Golovkin caught, I think it was in the fourth, he caught Stevens with a left hook. And Stevens' eyes his mouth just went, ooh, as his eyes went wide. Like he just couldn't believe what had hit him. And I felt like that with, I mean, Fury said after the fight, hit him around the back of the head. And he didn't. It was a perfect check left hook to the temple. And it had Fury scrambling.
Yeah, and it was one of the most in trouble I've ever seen Fury. He normally wants to just grab hold, fire off a couple of shots and try and sort of turn the tide, whereas he didn't want no part of Ngannou. And if Ngannou had had a few more fights, he might have been able to get in there and land some decent shots to try and get Fury out of there. I think he admired his own work a little bit too much, but he's a novice, so what do you expect? He probably didn't expect to knock Fury down the way he did. But he could have, if I'm being critical, could have stepped in and tried to get Fury out of there, and he was there for the taking, possibly.
I agree. I thought, although saying that, I did give Fury the fourth and fifth. I did think after the knockdown, he seemed to come back into it a little bit, and he seemed to kind of show a little bit of the experience and the fight management you'd expect from a world heavyweight champion. I did think at that point it was strange. I mean, I had it after 4 rounds. I given Fury the first and the fourth. Cole Frampton on commentary said he had Ngannou 5 rounds up, and I did think at that point, are we giving Ngannou rounds because he's better than we expected him to be? Are we taking away the view of the fight of what we should be watching in favour of the storyline of here's a novice that's doing better than we thought he might?
Yeah, and I also think it was also because it wasn't what we expected from Fury. The recent Fury has been front foot attacking, winning rounds comfortably, whereas the first 4 or 5 rounds they were all close and scrappy. Obviously, there's 10-8 in the third that's an automatic, but I gave Fury the first and the second. I don't know if I gave him the fourth or not. I'm not sure. I think I might have done. But the only rounds that I gave Ngannou at the start were the 10-8 for the third, and I think it was the sixth from there. I do think Fury recovered well, managed to get his senses back, and like you said, just the know-how to keep himself in there and still apply a bit of pressure to sort of put Ngannou in his place. But it could have ended very differently.
I just had a quick look at my scorecard. I gave Ngannou the second, the third, which was a 10-8 round, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then I gave Fury the last two. But then that last round was a hard watch. If you're Tyson Fury, and I don't know what his corner is saying to him, but he didn't box that last round like he needed to do anything.
No, that's what surprised me, because I was watching it first time round thinking Fury either needs to put him down or win it decisively, just to swing, maybe to save a draw. At that point, I do think he just about won the round, but I don't know. I don't know what was up with him.
Well, after the fight, we saw Alexander Usyk climbing the ring. Fury, in the lead up to the fight, was quite vocal about 23rd of December. If you try and get out of it, Usyk, we're going to sue you for breach of contract. And then straight after the fight, it was, I'm going to go home to my family. I'm going to have a long rest. So are we going to see Usyk Fury in the courts before we see it in the ring? Can we see Usyk defending that 23rd of December date that the Fury was so adamant about in the lead up to the fight?
I personally think neither of them want December 23rd. I think it's all been mind games. I think Fury knows that Usyk wasn't ready for December the 23rd. Usyk's watched that, knows that Fury won't be ready for this December 23rd. So now it's going to be a month of let's fight on the 23rd without anyone wanting to fight on the 23rd. And we'll see it at the end of the Riyadh season in February or March.
It'll be interesting then, because that opens up that date for the possibility of Chris Eubank Jr., Conor Benn, possibly in Cardiff, possibly in Saudi Arabia, depending on whether the border control decide to sanction it. I like you. I can't see this fight going ahead on the 23rd of December, because I think Fury, not just physically in terms of the cuts and bruises around his eyes and the top of his forehead, but mentally, he's going to need to take a break. Because I think you don't often get a very subdued Tyson Fury after a fight. Tyson Fury wins a fight, he's normally singing a bit of Walking in Memphis or Sweet Caroline or whatever he tickles his fancy that week in the karaoke bar. But he seemed very humbled. I think he knew he lost the fight. Or if he didn't know, I think he knew it was closer than it should have been. And I do think, especially if you look at him after the knockdown as well, I think he was embarrassed by that performance. I think he was embarrassed by the fight, by the way it turned out, and I think, to be fair, he's probably embarrassed a little bit by the way he's called on the 23rd of December so vociferously in the warm up or in the build up to this fight that he now probably can't make.
Yeah, I think Fury's full of mind games. We've seen it all his career. So everything's to be taken with a pinch of salt, but there was a definite difference with Fury. I think there's something deeper going on. Maybe not physically, but definitely mentally, because even the shape he's come in, he's never the most body beautiful, but he looked horrendous in there. He was 1911, I think he was 19 stone 11. He looked 21, 22 stone in there as well. Shane Fury, interestingly, he's the one to listen to out of the Furies. Shane was very honest after the fight and just said that he has had a 12-week training camp. Only 4 of it was with Sugar Hill Stewart, and the plan was literally to go in, get the win, get the money, and move on from it. And he more or less said that the Usyk deal sort of played with his head. He's believed his own hype too much and thought he could just walk in there, and as soon as he got put down in round 3, everything changed. And I think that's a pretty fair summary of everything.
It's interesting to talk about that because in the corner, Sugar Hill didn't seem his usual animated self, and Andy Lee, who I've got a lot of respect for, a lot of time for, felt like he looked like he didn't know what to say. He looked like he was trying to second guess what Fury wanted to hear, and I thought that was quite telling in terms of probably a little bit of the mentality inside the camp. I think they were just as shocked and just as embarrassed by the fight as Tyson.
Yeah, definitely. And just 2 fights before, admittedly, it was about 7 hours before after the ceremony and all of that rubbish. But just 2 fights before, Andy Lee's charge, Joseph Parker, had an amazing knockout victory win. So he would have been fully pumped and ready. The mood would have been good. But as soon as Fury come out, everything sort of stunk. Even the ring walk wasn't its usual. He wasn't his usual buoyant self, and everything just seemed, I don't know, just they felt overwhelmed, which is weird because Fury's the ultimate showman. But there was something definitely in the back of his mind going into it, and I think it reflected throughout the whole fight.
It's interesting because I did have a look at the WBC rankings, and they currently have Joseph Parker 10th. We know Tyson Fury likes a fight he knows, or he believes he's going to walk into and win. We know Tyson Fury likes to give his mates a payday, and Parker's a pretty similar build to Chisora and White, and they've all had those kind of fights. I think Parker has fought Chisora, I'm sure he has.
Yeah, yeah, he has.
Yeah, so you've got that triumvirate of opponents there that you've got. Look, it kind of feels tailor-made now. It feels like we're going to get another diversion. We're probably going to see, I reckon, early next year, we'll see Hrgović v. Wallin for the IBF. I think Usyk will get stripped of that because the IBF do love to enforce a mandatory, and rightly so. You know, Hrgović earned that spot. He's earned the right to fight for a world title. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you look down the rankings, and I'm going by memory here, but Deontay Wilder's ranked number 1, Anthony Joshua's ranked number 2, and what a final eliminator that'd be. Arslanbek Makhmudov. I don't know why I try and say his first name. I should say his last name. Makhmudov is 3rd, and then you've kind of got a list of, I think, of the usual suspects. I think Frank Sanchez is in there. I think Andy Ruiz Jr. is in there, but it does feel like it's tailor-made at this point for a Tyson Fury Joseph Parker fight that will be a comfortable defence for Tyson, and it just prolongs his retirement party. Because at this point, I think it's quite clear, and I think I said this last week, and I'll repeat it again. I think Tyson Fury's best years are beyond him. I think we saw the best of Tyson Fury, or the peak Tyson Fury years, were between the Vladimir Klitschko win and the third Deontay Wilder win. Although you could possibly argue the second Deontay Wilder win, or the second Deontay Wilder fight, maybe the third fight. In hindsight, maybe decline had started setting a little bit. But since then, obviously, Dillian Whyte, Derek Chisora, who I love Chisora, but at this stage of his career, he's a glorified punch bag for a guy like Fury. And then the Ngannou fight last night. You know, there's been good opponents there for Fury to take in terms of Joshua, in terms of Usyk. Dare I say, Joe Joyce prior to the Zile Zhang losses, I think would have been quite interested to see that fight. It does feel like Fury at this point is ducking a lot of challenges, taking the easy route, the path of least resistance. And I think he's at 3 fights now, or 2 fights in one exhibition since the Wilder fight in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's not a good look for the Tyson Fury camp.
No, and I think everything all just rests on the Usyk fight happening. It's all been signed. Hundreds of fights have been signed in the last couple of years with all of them. It's one of those. If he does fight Usyk, then I think he's saved himself a bit of face and saved himself a lot of criticism at the same time as well. It is that stage now where he has to fight Usyk. And if it's not Usyk, it has to be Joshua. Has to be one of them. I'm a massive Tyson Fury fan. Have been since way back when. Always had him over Joshua, even when Joshua was on top at the time. But he needs to cement the legacy. The legacy is not cemented just yet for me. He needs more sound defences. Dillian Whyte, he can't really do anything about. He was mandated for years. Fair enough. Got the job done well. Chisora, that was a farce. Shouldn't have happened. Ngannou fight, I'm not as mad at. I'm more mad at the Chisora fight than the Ngannou fight. Simply because the Ngannou fight was worth so much money, so much attention, sponsorships, etc., etc. On the premise he fights Usyk next. That's the only way that the Ngannou fight is okay for me.
That's the thing, is that if the Ngannou fight happens, if we're not looking at an inactive run with Tyson of, you know, a layoff between Wilder and Whyte, and then we had another long layoff between Whyte and Chisora. I mean, Chisora was last December. So, and then we're looking at a 10-month layoff. Effectively, it's not just him. Usyk's to blame in this as well. But they're holding heavyweight boxing up because the whole division is in limbo whilst these two pretend to sign contracts and pretend they're going to agree a date and pretend they're going to fight. And this has been going on now since he beat Whyte. So it would be forgivable if, and it's not going to happen, the WBC aren't going to strip Tyson Fury. Realistically, Usyk has done his mandatory in Dubois with the WBA. I don't see the WBO calling the mandatory with Zhang anytime soon. And the length of time it's taken, I think he's probably going to get stripped to the IBF. And like I said, I think we'll see Hrgovic at Owolin next year, in the early part of the year for a vacant title. And as soon as that happens, you don't have an undisputed fight between Fury and Usyk anymore because you've got a third champion holding another belt in the mix.
Like, and I was thinking this earlier. You can just imagine, can't you? Fast forward a year's time, Warland's got the IBF. Fury v Warland 2 for the IBF. Automatic rematch. It's another trilogy. And then retirement. No Usyk fight, no AJ fight. 2 Warland fights to end his career.
You can see it, and that's after we've had a Josie Parker fight. I think the Josie Parker fight will come in between those. What did you make of in the build-up as well? We had the likes of John Fury now sporting a Hulk Hogan moustache. How much better would a Fury clan be the day they push him to one side? Say,
100%.
John, we don't need your shenanigans. We had him headbutting plastic, or glass, or whatever that cage perspex thing was. Head of the KSI fight. Now we've got him trying to get in Ngannou's face at the weigh-in. I'm sure I saw there's a Roman Fury fighting either next week or the weekend after. So I don't think we've seen the last of John yet. I'm sure we're going to see John again before Christmas.
Yeah, and I think he's another reason for everything being a bit flat the other night for Tyson as well. Whenever John's around, it's a circus. John on his own, when he's not surrounded by cameras, and obviously I've only ever seen him on a camera, but what I mean is without media attention to try and bring, when he's doing sit downs, one-to-one interviews, he comes across all right. Knows his stuff to a degree and is often very fair. As soon as there's any attention, the fight becomes the John Fury show. And I think it saps the life out of Tyson. You can see Tyson's massively embarrassed by him. Tommy's embarrassed by him, but loves the exposure John brings him, whereas Tyson doesn't need that. And you're right, they need to just tell him to do one, or just go and fight in America so we can't go over.
That's a great shout, yeah. If he, well, Sugar Hill's based in America, isn't he? I mean, that's one way. Although they did say, didn't they? I believe in the build up to the fight, Fury, that he hates our government and he's only going to fight in Saudi Arabia from now on. Oh, sorry, Alan Leon, I'm good, thanks, mate. Hope you're well too. Cheers, mate. How did you score the fight, Leon? So, God, yeah, you were saying, so I was just responding to a comment there. So, could we say Fury out in America again? Obviously, we're talking about Sugar Hill Stewart being based there. Can we see Fury fighting in America, or do you think all the money now is in Saudi? Is there a fight that will take Fury out of Saudi to Vegas?
No, I think he's done the American dream. He's fought over there, I think it's 3 times, maybe 4, 3 or 4 times. Done what he's needed to do over there. The money's not in America either. Only possibility would be the Warland rematch. That'd probably be the only one that could take place in America. I don't think it's big enough for Saudi. And no one in the UK gives a crap about it either. So I think they'd try and flog the dead horse to America.
Do you know, I wouldn't be surprised either, to be fair. Although saying that, I've got to be honest, I don't think we're going to get Zhang, but I've got a feeling Hrgovic might have enough in the tank to beat Wallin. Be interested if Fury had any interest in taking that fight against Hrgovic.
Yeah, definitely think Hrgovic is beatable. I think Zhang beat Hrgovic personally.
I did, yeah.
So there is a blemish on his record. But that's someone that keeps getting left out of the discussions. Big Bang Zhang. Where does he fit amongst it all, do you reckon?
I can't. I think that's a fight that, on paper, Fury should win comfortably. Zhang is quite slow. I mean, he's 40 now, and
Yeah.
But that Fury last night, I know he's out of shape. I know it's an exhibition fight. He probably thought he'd be able to walk over Ngannou. But if he fought like that against Zhang, I think Zhilei Zhang's got the boxing nous and the power to end the fight quite early.
Yeah, and one thing that is for certain, nobody's taking Zhang as a voluntary. So he's in that position. He's sort of the middleman waiting for the chance, as we've seen so often, because nobody wants to fight him as a mandatory. It's not worth the risk. He's got that big equalizer. He looked massively improved against Joyce. Going into the first fight, I thought Joyce would just steamroll him very slowly, of course, but I thought he'd beat Zhang in the first fight. And after the first fight, I did not see a way Zhang would get beat in the second. And he's another one in limbo, Joe Joyce. What does he do? Do you reckon the Dubois rematch has anything to it?
I think after the back-to-back losses to Zhang, and after Dubois has had a credible showing against Usyk, I think there's a bigger clamour for the rematch now than there was 6 months ago. I think 6 months ago, if you'd have said, let's have a rematch, people would have gone, Joyce, we'll get a repeat. Joyce will just end it sooner. But now I can see a credible argument for a Joyce Dubois rematch. And that's a fight that could easily be made on a Fury undercard in Saudi Arabia to bolster and strengthen a pay-per-view.
Definitely, and I think Frank Warren would be foolish not to put it on as well. Gives Dubois a bit more exposure. Obviously, Joyce isn't really a big enough name on his own to sell a fight. Nobody really cares about Joe Joyce, which is quite a shame because he is a fantastic boxer. But it's hard to try and pay both of them what they need to be paid, not put it on pay-per-view because it's not a pay-per-view fight. So the Fury undercard would be the perfect slot for it because you're not paying pay-per-view for it, and they'd probably want too much money for it to go on a normal BT show.
You can see, I mean, like, if they are talking about making, and when I say they, I mean the Saudis, are putting Joshua Wilder on the undercard of a Fury Usyk, I mean, you could easily see Joyce Dubois on that. And given the sums of money they're talking about that it's going to cost to make, firstly, Fury Usyk and secondly, Joshua Wilder on the same card, I mean, it's chump change, I think, to add Joyce versus Dubois onto it. And then you've got a genuine pay-per-view for the first time in years. You'd have a solid pay-per-view card that's actually worth paying for.
Yeah,
that's a question for the chat. Yeah, what was the last pay-per-view card that you looked at and thought that's genuinely worth paying the extra money for, on top of your Sky Sports, BT, Amazon Prime, DAZN subscriptions?
See, the trouble is as well with those mega fights on there. Be interesting to see what the price point would be for it, because then you're not getting that for $24.95 or $29.99. I think they'd have to up that considerably. Although it will bring in and do the buys, I think they'll get greedy with it and potentially still price people out of it. If they put it on for a tenner, I probably wouldn't pay for it, to be honest with you. I'm tight. I don't like paying for it. We've endured we've endured that much crap over the last few years that have ended up on pay-per-view. Not a chance would I ever buy a fight again.
No, I'm with Leon. I've got a fire stick. But say that if there was a pay-per-view worth paying for, given the hassle of streams dropping out, if there was genuinely a fight that was pay-per-view worthy, I would happily pay pay-per-view money. But just to add another name, obviously you said no one, and I agree, no one's taking Zhang as a voluntary. Martin Bakole had a good win on the undercard. I know we spoke about this earlier. I thought Takam would take Bakole the distance. Takam's a tough guy. Went 10 rounds with Joshua. Was it 7 rounds with Chisora? I mean, I thought there'd be enough in Takam's tank to give Bakole rounds. I mean, Martin Bakole's a fighter that no one's going to fight willingly, given that he's very, very high risk. And given the lack of promotional backing, and I don't know, I can't remember off the top of my head where he's ranked with the governing bodies, but very low reward.
Yeah, definitely. Bakole going into the fight, he's barely had a training camp. I think he come in at 21 stone, looked a mess, looked an absolute mess. As soon as that first bell went, turned into a different monster, and it says it all. He's the earliest person to stop Carlos Takam, who we know through the circuit is double hard. He's just double hard, and to get him out of there is an accomplishment. Although he's never really going to trouble you too much for the top fighters. The fact that Bakole's gone in there and made the statement, got him out. I think it was the 4th round. He got him out. It's intent, and I think it also puts all the other British heavyweights on their guard as well, especially the likes of Fabio Wardley. Did you manage to catch that fight?
That was nicely tied in. I did. I even watched the 15-minute face-off they did with Carl Frampton beforehand, and if anything, it just diminished my excitement for the fight because it was the most weak-willed, gloves are off, face-off special that I think I've ever seen. The fight went the way I expected it to. Adelaide, I remember watching the Kamil Sokolowski fight that he was absolutely gifted on the undercard. I think of Felix Cash Denzel Bentley from memory. And the problem with Adelaide, or the problem Adelaide's had, is that you don't get a chance to build a fighter anymore. And Adelaide has had a long run of quite easy knockover journeyman, which he's beat all but, well, he's on the record going into the fight, he beat them all. But like I said, he was gifted the Sokolowski one. And then he comes in against a guy in Wardley who, has beat Eric Molina, former world title challenger, former Anthony Joshua opponent, beat Nathan Gorman, who was a British champion. And Wardley's step up in class, I think, showed on the night. I think I gave Adelaide a first, and then from the second round onwards, it was all Fabio Wardley for me.
Fairly similar to me. I gave Adelaide the second as well. I gave Adelaide the first 2, and then Wardley just went through the gears. I thought it was going to be a lot more competitive given the start that Adelaide had made, but he soon faded as soon as Wardley closed the distance, and it become fairly easy for Wardley. The best punch of the fight was probably after the fight, and it was David Adelaide on the referee.
Yeah, he should have. He wanted to try and do that during the fight. I thought that. There's no point showing aggression at that point. You've got to show it whilst you're still in the fight.
Yeah,
I thought that was. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I did see on social media on Twitter earlier. Fabio Wardley kind of tweeted a video that was like no excuses, with a sort of compilation of Adelaide making excuses. And Adelaide seemed to say that in fairly good spirits, but that was it. It was a good fight on pay. If you look on BoxRec, I think you think that's a good fight, but I think the fight went exactly as we kind of anticipated.
Yeah, and I checked the odds before the fight, and I was very surprised to see Wardley only 1-3. I thought he would have been a bit of a heavier favourite going into it. I managed to get the Wardley knockout at 8-11, which I thought was ridiculous value. Going into it, the sort of question is now, where does Wardley go? Because he's sort of stuck in that mix where it's nobody will really want to take a massive risk on him, and he's not a big enough name to bring the revenue into the big fights.
I think the obvious answer is Fraser Clark, but Clark was mandatory for the British, and Shalom Boxer, his management team, pulled him out of it. I think for Wardley, I don't want to see Derek Chisora fight anymore, but I can see a bit of intrigue in a Wardley Chisora fight. Agit Kabayel, I think he's still European champion. Beyond that, he's not quite ready to step up to that. I think that B level list of fighters, I know he's ready for a Daniel Dubois. I know he's ready for an Otto Wallin. What would I do with Fabio? It'd be interesting who the border control called as a mandatory. I think he's young enough, and it'll probably do him good to defend the British belt. Who and where he defends it, other than Fraser Clark at this point, is a hard one to see. Maybe Jay McFarlane. I think Jay McFarlane he's a Scottish champion off the top of my head. So that's a fight Wardley you back him very heavily to win.
Yeah,
but it would be another defence and a step closer to winning the Lonsdale belt outright. What about you?
Yeah.
Where do you see Wardley going next?
I don't think it'll be Fraser Clark. I think Ben Shlom / Boxer pulled Fraser Clark out of that for a reason, and I think their reason was proven right on Saturday night. I don't think at this minute, I don't think Big Fraser can go in there and land much for glove on Wardley. I think we could well see Fraser Clark and Adelaide next. I think that could be the fight that gets made. Fraser Clark. Sorry, not Fraser. Fabio Wardley. I think it will be one of your respected journeyman types that will give him a tough test. Maybe like a Tony Yoka, someone like that.
That's not a bad show. But Yoka's been beaten by both Bakoli and Takam.
Michael Hunter.
Perhaps elevating.
I thought
Hunter was dropping back down to cruiser. I mean, the other option is to look at the Bridgerweight division. You've got Alan Babic.
Yeah.
Oscar Rivas. So there's heavyweights there that...
Possibly Tony Bellew, if the rumours are true.
Oh, please. Bellew isn't making cruiserweight anymore. He's enjoying his retirement. Let's let him enjoy that retirement.
AJ still needs someone to carry his bags for him as well.
Just to respond to MC Kelsey in the comments, Usyk or Fury, I'll go on Usyk on the back of... I know Usyk got dropped by Dubois, but I thought Usyk beat Fury before Saturday's fight with Ngannou, and nothing's changed for me. What about you? Are you backing Usyk or Fury?
Fury, 100%. Even with the Ngannou fight, Before it, Fury. After Fury, I think he's too big and too heavy, too strong for Usyk. And I think this is the best time for it to get made. When you think of it, you've got Usyk who's coming off the Dubois victory with not a lot of credit, all controversy surrounding it. Possibly lost his world title, very possibly. Different ref on a different night, who knows? So Fury would have got the ultimate confidence from that. And then on the flip side, Usyk would have been sat there last night, loving every second of it, thinking the exact same. So I do think if they do fight, I think we will see the best of both of them. And I think the best of Fury beats the best of Usyk, just by strength and size and power. I think it'll come down to that.
I know he's improved a lot since then, but Fury struggled with smaller guys. Yeah, you had Nevin Pajkic on the Channel 5 show back in the Mick Hennessy days, dropped him. Steve Cunningham, overhand right. He threw a lazy jab out, an overhand right straight over the top. Had Fury flat on his back. Obviously Ngannou yesterday was 6'4", probably a similar height to Usyk. I was able to counter him and drop him. And I can't see. I know Fury's always the bigger man. We talk about smaller men, but I can't see it. For the life of me, I just can't see how Fury is going to win this fight from the position that he's currently in. Who do I think Ngannou should fight next? I think he's going into that professional fighters league, isn't he? Ngannou. I can't see. I think there's options for Ngannou to fight anyone. Is my hunch. You could put him in with Joshua. You could put him in Wilder. You could put him in with. There's a shout for Wardley actually. Obviously Joshua's last opponent, Robert Helenius. Helenius Wardley could be an interesting fight. My gut feeling is Ngannou's going to go back to MMA.
Yeah, more than likely. But WBC president Mauricio Sulaiman has come out and said he is putting it to the board that they give Francis Ngannou a ranking. So if he accepts that, then we may see a little bit of a boxing career for Francis.
I can understand that to a degree on the respect of how he performed on Saturday night, but there's a lot of people that have dedicated their lives to this sport, and who I'll have to have a look quickly. Quick look. Who drops out of the WBC rankings to
I don't think I followed the rankings for years, just because of the fact that like people like Francis Ngannou could have one fight and just end up with a top 10, top 15 spot.
All right, so I'll go through it. So obviously Fury's champion. From 1st down to 15th, you've got Wilder, Joshua, Makhmudov, Frank Sanchez, Andy Ruiz Jr., Jared Anderson. Thank you for the pop-ups. Jared Anderson, Efe Ajagba, Dillian White, Martin Bakole, Josie Parker, Philip Hrgovic. I don't know why Hrgovic is in there if he's mandatory for the IBF. Daniel Dubois, Agit Kabiel, Otto Wallin, and Jalalov. I'm going to think Hrgovic would be the obvious one to drop out if he's mandatory for the IBF. That seems the obvious one to get Ngannou a ranking. But is that just going to open up? We're going to have a rematch. We're going to have Fury and Ngannou 2 with a WBC belt on the line. Or Usyk and Ngannou.
Yeah, stranger things have happened.
God bless governing bodies.
Far too many of them still.
All right. Shall we wrap up the Fury discussion and move on to, because we're gonna stick around tonight till 9:30. You've only got another 40 minutes of us. There's nothing more on the undercard, is there? Roberto Duran Jr. lost.
Yeah, Makhmudov beat Junior Wright, first round knockout as expected, and Moses Atama beat some Hungarian in the first round as well.
The 10-1 Istvan Bernath, wasn't it?
Bernath, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Put that fight on the back burner for now.
Honourable mention for Joseph Parker. Third round knockout of Keane, I thought was superb. That's all I have for the fight.
I'm glad he's remembered that and knocked people out, because his career was really starting to stagnate down a very, very boring and very sort of tedious journey.
Yeah, and he's one of those. He's not going to reach the top again, but he's a good opponent for anybody, and I think he needs to keep himself as that, because on his day he can beat 90% of heavyweights out there.
He's certainly a good B-side, but it's a shame because he had that unification fight with Joshua. He lost to Dillian White, and since then he's kind of he's allowed his career just to kind of peter out in a way that
sort of happy to be a sparring partner for Tyson Fury.
I mean, he's still 33-3. He's still got a very respectable record.
Only 30 years of age as well, which I couldn't believe. He's still got a few years in him. There could be a bit of a resurgence there.
It could be. I mean, stranger things have happened. He only needs him to go in as a B-side against someone that you fancy to beat him, for him to get the upset. All of a sudden, you're talking again about Joe Parker being in big fights.
Yeah, I think the route they all should be targeting at the minute is the IBF, because Wallin and Hrgovic, they're not world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. So if you can get yourself in a nice mandatory position for that, there's a world title there to be won.
Let me just pull up the IBF rankings and Wallin is no longer number 2.
Oh,
there's the number 2 currently is vacant. But you could have a box off between 1 and 3, which would be Filip Hrgovic and Anthony Joshua. Parker's ranked 6 with the IBF.
Oh, for chance.
Deontay Wilder, Frank Sanchez, Jaron Anderson, Dubois, Cabiel, Makhmudov, White, Bakoli, Jagba Gassiev. Fabio Wardley's now 15th. He's moved in ahead of Andy Ruiz Jr. Surprised Gassiev's 14th. He's a fighter there. Given his best days were at Cruiser.
That's why I don't really follow the rankings. That's why I don't follow the rankings that much anymore.
I don't. To be fair, I'm just pulling them up because I think it's a useful marker of where the heavyweight division could be heading. And I think if you're Anthony Joshua right now, you're going to be champing at the bit to try and get that Hrgovic fight.
Definitely. If
you can't get the Fury fight. Because I'll say that I think on the basis of last night as well, I think Anthony Joshua would have beat Tyson Fury last night.
It's a very hard one because I don't think that Tyson Fury comes into the ring against Anthony Joshua. I think it's all slightly horses for courses. I think Fury went into that fight the way he did because he felt he could. I don't think we'll see that Fury again, unless you're right and he is in decline. But I'm sort of. I know they say you're only as good as your last fight, but I'm just sort of I'm leaving that as an exhibition, and his next fight will tell us everything.
In which case, his last fight was Derek Chisora nearly a year ago, and by the time he fights again, if it's in March, 15 months. That's a lot of Let's go back further. If he fights in March, it'll be the only meaningful fight within 2 years would have been Dillian Whyte, and that's not a good run to be coming
Shocking.
into a. Oh, let's move on. So in Mexico last night, I've not watched the fight, so I'm gonna allow you to talk about this. You've got free reign to give us a commentary on this. I've done a bit of reading on it. O'Shaquie Foster come from behind, 12th round knockout of Rocky Hernandez. How did that fight go? And there was some controversy on the scorecards because the WBC have their open scoring in effect because it's a world title fight, which means at the end of the 4th and the 8th round, we had the live scores get announced.
Yeah. So it was an interesting fight. It kind of went the way that was allegedly expected. I don't know too much about O'Shaquie Foster, to be honest with you. We covered it last week, and we kind of just looked at each other, praying that the other one knew something. But O'Shaquie Foster isn't someone that I know much about. But watching the fight the other night, looked decent enough. Hernandez was the front foot aggressor, sort of pinning O'Shaquie Foster back. Foster had a lot of work. Foster had a lot of work to try and pin Hernandez back. Sort of got to him later on. I had at the time of stoppage, I think I had O'Shaquie Foster 1, maybe 2 rounds up. But for some reason, all the scorecards were wide for Hernandez. The 11th round, I know you've not watched the fight. You need to watch the 11th round. I think it was the 10th or the 11th. One of the most entertaining. Oh, it was incredible. Both of them went for it as if it was the last round. And ultimately, I think that's what finished Hernandez in the end. He could have, on the scorecards, cruised to a comfortable victory. But for the first time in the fight, really decided to fight Foster's fight and found himself chinned in the 12th.
Was there anything on the undercards?
Justice Honey beat Andrew Tabiti.
Do you know what? I'm a little bit. I had a feeling Tabiti might offer something going into that. I know he was the B side. I mean, the betting odds kind of reflected that, but he's a guy that I think has only lost to in the World Boxing Super Series before at cruiserweight. And they stepped up heavyweight, but he was in that stable of Mayweather's along with the likes of Badou Jack and Mickey Bay back in the day when I think Mayweather was going to try his hand at promotions till the end of his career. We had these undercards that was full of Badou Jack and like Andrew Tabiti, Mickey Bay. I thought Tabiti might have enough looking at. I mean, I'm going purely by BoxRec. I've not seen Justice Haney fight. I'll have to watch his. I've got the card saved to watch from Sunday night or Saturday night, but Sunday morning. But that surprised me. I thought Tabiti might cause an upset in that.
No, it was all pretty straightforward, one-way traffic. I think one of the judges had it 10-0, 100 to 92, and the other two had it 98-92. So it was all straightforward. I expected Tabiti to. I think he's got a massive punch power, knockout record. I think he's 16 knockouts in 21, 22 fights. So I was expecting that to become a factor at some point, but Honey just dealt with him, and he looks a good prospect. So he's one to keep your eye on.
Possible opponent for Fabio Wardley? Or too soon?
Anyone could be. Yeah, definitely too soon. See, that's more a Fraser Clark. There we go. We'll match Fraser Clark up. That's big Fraser out the way, or Johnny Fisher, someone like that. Get them out of the way. And then apart from that, there was another 2 fights. Eduardo Nunez beat Oscar Escandon. Know of Nunez, not all that well, but he was one of those 1 to 100 shots that knocked his opponent out in round 2. And the other one was Javid Beltran beat Jose Rosas. That was a knockout in the 8th round as well. Up and coming star Beltran, apparently. Yeah, not much else to report on it, to be honest. Bit of a boring nights of boxing.
Friday night, we had the history-making Amanda Serrano 12 3-minute rounds. I think we both expected Serrano against the 12-2 opponent. I mean, Serrano had 45-2-1. I think coming into the fight, 30 knockouts. Won a wide shutout. She won every round on every judge's card, 121.08 times 3. It's not the advert that I think Serrano would have wanted, given that, as we said last week, the excitement of women's boxing from the 2-minute rounds comes from it's fast-paced. It's quite. They have to get a lot more into a short space of time. Whereas I've not seen the fight, but normally if you get 3 scorecards returning 121.08, it's a pretty boring, one-sided, monotonous affair.
Well, it was and it wasn't. The first 2, maybe 3 rounds, just like the men's boxing normally, feeling out rounds, seeing where they were, but it then set fire, and it did become a woman's scrap. Every round from the 4th to the 12th, action packed. I think in the end, nearly 2,000 punches were thrown, just shy of 500 landing. They both gave it a good go. Let me just find the stats. If they let me down, I've not. Yeah, I think Serrano landed 370 odd punches. Ramos about 120. But I don't know. I think it worked. We didn't see the knockout, but there was more than enough action from the 4th round onwards to suggest that it could be possible. But not every fighter is Amanda Serrano, and that could be the problem.
Yeah, there they are. There's a few fighters you can imagine could possibly make the step up over the distance, but if they was going to do this, I think they should have gone to 8 3-minute rounds.
Yeah,
before going
build it up gradually.
Yeah, or even just go to 12 2-minute rounds, and then drop it back down to 8 3s, and take it up over a couple of years. But I do think women's boxing will lose something when because I think it will go to 3-minute rounds eventually, and when it does, I think the women's boxing will suffer a little bit as a result.
Yes, because at the minute it is its own sport, and I love it for being its own sport. I know the world's mad on equality and everything like that, but if it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? I don't feel the women's game is really crying out for 3-minute rounds. Fair enough if that's what they desire, and that's what they want to do. Fair play. You can't deny them that. But from a fan point of view that wasn't interested in women's boxing in the slightest at the start, honestly took a slightly misogynistic view to it before it become big. Didn't want to see it. Not going to lie about that. Won't go back on my words. But but as I said last week, I've grown to love it and grow to enjoy it for what it is. Serrano Ramos, I could watch another 12 rounds of that again, but it's the other fighters that I worry about, the smaller fighters, the ones that need to have a punch up in a telephone box. It's a hard one. Serrano's come out and said if Sky Nicholson, etc., want to fight her, it has to be over 12 3-minute rounds. And that pretty much eliminates Nicholson at the minute. So I think that's where we could have a problem as well, because Serrano is the first woman to do it. It's on her terms. And there's going to be a few women that aren't going to want to join the 12 by 3-minute rounds.
No, it's very difficult to see. The only person I think could possibly have done it is Katie Taylor, but I've got a feeling that age is starting to catch up with her a little bit. She's 35, 36 now.
36, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And as a 36-year-old, I know full well that your body doesn't do what you want it to or what it used to do without aching a hell of a lot. So I'd be very surprised.
Sounds like me at 29, that does.
Oh, well, you got to give it. Wait till you're in your 30s. Wait till you go past 35, and all of a sudden, like, I can't get out of this chair without groaning. Anything on the undercards of the Serrano fight that you watched that stood out?
To be honest with you, I had it on in the background. I was lifting my head up. There weren't anything really exciting. Lascales beat Ray Barlow, knockout. Aguilar beat Rios, split decision, and the rest of it's not even worth mentioning, to be honest.
All right. Should we progress to the previews for next week?
We shall indeed. You can take the lead on this because I've done absolutely nothing towards it.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, the only card I think that's on TV that I can think of is the live on the zone from Monte Carlo as Joe Cordina fights, I think it's Eduardo Vasquez. Cordina's 16-0, Vasquez 15-1, but with 3 knockouts. I mean, Cordina's got 9 in his 16 wins. It feels very much like, I don't think this is a mandatory. I'm pretty sure this is a voluntary defence from Cordina. But this feels like a really strange night of boxing, given that, like with York Hall last weekend, where we only had a 4-fight card, all we've got is a 4-fight card, albeit with 2 world title fights. But Joe Cordina was going to be built big in Wales. I mean, since the decline of the Selby's, Wales has kind of struggled a little bit for world-class boxers. And then Joe Cordina's come through. And from what I can gather, or from what I've been reading, he was due to have a fight at Cardiff Castle that didn't go ahead. Then there was talk about is it the Metro Point Arena? I mean, they always change their names, don't they? These days, and then that fell through. Then he wanted a unification fight, and the only unification fight I could get was O'Shaquie Foster. And then apparently Foster wanted too much money. Cordina said, I'll go to America to fight him. And lo and behold, now Cordina's fighting in Monte Carlo. And it's really hard to see what Joe Cordina's career is going to benefit from fighting an unknown, fairly pillow-fisted opponent in the backyard of someone's yacht.
Sorry, a comment's just caught me off guard.
Yeah, that comment caught me off guard as well, but we're all having fun in this chat, mate. Don't you worry about that. Joe Cordina, Red Bull Vasquez in.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be a Cordina win.
I think it's is what it is, sort of thing. I think they need to get Cordina out. I think um, they're busy. Matchroom are busy leading up to the end of the year, and I think it's just a case of slotting it in somewhere against an opponent that shouldn't cause him too much trouble. I'm just looking at the card now. There's the IBF light flyweight title on the line as well in the Nonchinga v Dominguez fight as well. So there's a couple of decent fights on there. Suleiman Sissoko's fighting, as well as Ramla Ali. So the four decent enough fights. 2 of them for world titles. So I can't grumble too much about it. But you're right. It's a very strange night of boxing.
I mean, Jalisa Guzman, Ramla Ali's. I'm guessing it's only going ahead because Guzman didn't read the script the first time around and went a bit hard on Ali. To be honest, it looks. I mean, the Sissoko Lucero card is, or the fight at light middle is, on paper at least, seems to be the pick of the fights. I don't know too much about the light flyers. Edward Vasquez, I think, is a name that's come out of nowhere. We all know Joe Cordina, but I still find it hard to believe that this is like, given that we've got we've got Conlan and Gill going ahead in Belfast, that they couldn't make a better fight for a world title for Cordina than this. I know there's been talk about Cordina fighting Lee Woods at the City Ground next year, but this isn't going to prepare him, I don't think, in any way for that fight.
No, it is a strange one. I feel like they've just grabbed the first person that they could. But to be fair to them, they have had issues matching Cordina of late. There's been 2 or 3 recent pullouts, fights that were meant to have been made that haven't happened. Obviously, the Foster fight was probably the favourite, but that went awry. So I think it's a case of just getting him out before the end of the year against whoever they can, and sort of give him a voluntary before he gets mandated to fight. I thought that's the only logical explanation behind it for me.
I think it kind of makes sense. I think this is strange. I'm starting on myself here, but surely someone like Mauricio Lara could have offered a bit more to Cordina and would have had a puncher's chance than Edward Vasquez.
Yeah, and it's also the name as well. The name of Mauricio Lara. So it just feels like a hand-picked opponent for an easy voluntary. Just literally to get him out. But then again, we're saying this. Watch Vasquez absolutely lamp him now, and us coming here with a straight face next Monday, saying that we saw it coming. I'm trying to see who Vasquez has actually fought.
Oh yeah, I've got his box rack open now. He lost to Raymond Ford, split decision. Other than that, his last fight, Brian De Gracia, Mizel Lopez. 2 of his last 3 fights have been split decision wins. So it's very hard to see. Yeah, against 29-2-1 and 14-1-0 opponents, how on paper at least Vasquez is going to trouble Cordina. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've been sitting here for the last week or so saying that Fury wouldn't use Ngannou as a sparring partner, and this was going to be a dominant one-sided. But now we're back to conventional boxing. I feel like we can talk with a little bit more certainty.
And also, just checking here, Vasquez's last fight against Di Gracia was for a vacant intercontinental title. So he's levels behind. He shouldn't be fighting for a world title.
This is a problem with governing bodies, though, is that we get all these international, intercontinental, the Pan Pacific, the WBO European, and WBC Silver, and it's just an easy way for sanctioning bodies to make some money, whilst undeserving fighters get ranked. Because a promoter puts up a purse bid that says, "Oh, we'll fight for this WBA Intercontinental title against some Nicaraguan fruit picker or some Polish cab driver," and next thing you know, they're in the top 10 in the world rankings with that governing body. And it's just one of those little facets of boxing that you go back to what you said about not looking at the rankings, because they try and pin belts like that on these fights that then don't offer anything.
Yeah, and I've looked further through Vasquez's record. The only other title he's fought for in his career was in 2020 and Arsenda 2020 against Irvin Gonzalez for the vacant again WBC USA featherweight title, and he won that again by a split decision. How many split decisions has this guy had? 1, 2, 3, 4. He's had 5 split decisions in his 16 fights and won 4 of them. And 3 knockouts as well to bring to the table. And he had a draw in his record that was later changed for no contest as well.
This is a problem he's going to face against Cordina, because Cordina's obviously like a very experienced amateur and a world champion as a professional. Is that if you can't knock on someone's door and they can't hear you, you're not going to get your respect. And if that's because he's getting split decisions against far lesser opponents, it's only gearing up one way, and that's the dominant Joe Cordina win. I've got a feeling next week's going to be a very short show. Well, it won't be a very short show. Hopefully Martin will be on and we can preview his title fight. But certainly, I think in terms of just having a quick look down here, there is a card on in America on Fox. 20-1 Alejandro Luis Silva against 21-5-1 Yana Gonzalez at middleweight.
Probably have a little glance over it.
13-1 Eris Corral against 6-0 Robin Ellis in a super bantamweight. Oh, hang on. I'm a bit confused. That Robin Ellis looks. I mean, Robin's a unisex name. I mean, Eris Correa is definitely a male. I'll post a link in the chat. I mean, Robin Ellis doesn't look.
Taking crossover to a whole new level.
Potentially. I mean, this is the kind of fight that belongs at Old Trafford. Let alone the Thunder Studios Long Beach.
There's literally nothing else on next week. Bit of a lackluster card. I'm fairly looking forward to the DAZN one. I know we've just absolutely ruined any potential excitement for the Cordina fight, but the other 3 cards, the other 3 fights on the card seem to be decent enough. So at least there's something to watch. It can't be worse than the football either.
That's true. I am off to Brentford. Oh, hang on. At the Aborigines Beach Resort in Qatar, Norton 1 Kevin Dasso fights Norton 4 King Philip. Somebody's all has got to go. I mean, that's the pick of a. Hang on, this is a good thing about the box schedule now. I mean, this is probably making for quite rubbish TV, but 0-1-1 Alexandra del Angel Diaz fights 0-3-0 Rosa Balboa Alvarez. No relation to Rocky, I assume.
Rocky. Is there nothing on at York Hall or anything?
I can scroll down. So look at the small hall shows. I think there's one at Hull. I'm sure I saw one in. City Hall. Hull 9-0 Sonny Taylor takes on 5-6-1 Perry Howard Cruiser. 10-0 Corey O'Regan. It's a busy night for old TBA.
Just like trialist in the football.
The Eston Sports Academy in Middlesbrough. 8-0 Michael Webster takes on 6-1-0 Nick Campbell in a heavyweight bout. Who's Michael Webster thought to get to 8-0 5 knockouts?
Up next for Fabio Wardley.
Let's make this fight happen.
People want to see it.
His last fight was a points win over 0-8-1 Ryan LeBourne. 40-33, LeBourne down 3 times.
Tough as old boots, at least.
Oh, LeBourne's now 0-12-2, having been knocked out 4 times.
Doesn't look great on the record, then, that one.
No. I know I said we'd go till 9:30. I think at this point we're sort of filling. Is there anything else you want to? I don't know if there's anything else to talk about in terms of previews.
That was a bit of an underwhelming end to a lively start, to be honest with you. I didn't realise there was so little on next week.
Well, at least we'll have a short show next week. We'll try and do it. I don't know if there's any Monday night football on, but we'll just do a 15-minute show during the half time.
Yeah. Anyone in the chat? Yeah, anyone in the chat got any questions? Or are you bored to sleep now?
John Fury, Deja's been confirmed on Twitter. I couldn't imagine anything worse than seeing a topless John Fury trying to throw punches. Do you think Tommy Fury lost to KSI? I'm going to be honest. I watched the first 2 rounds of that fight, and by that point, I've kind of seen enough, and I gave up and went to bed.
Yeah, I had Tommy winning it, but it's boring fight.
All right, should we wrap it up then?
I think we shall. An hour and 24. We've done all right.
We've got a lot out of effectively an exhibition mismatch, and to be fair, a decent British title fight on a fairly one-sided undercard.
Yeah, all the fighters were 1-100 on it, apart from Fabio Wardley.
Yeah. West Ham boxing. Oh, we shouldn't be giving Fabio Wardley this many props. I mean, he's an Ipswich fan.
I know. Gonna have to sponsor him and all sorts, aren't we?
No, he'll have to come over West Ham for a bit. I might actually though. So let's make a challenge. I'll fight Fabio Wardley for the British title, and then West Ham's got a heavyweight you can get behind. There you go. All right, let's wrap it up then.
Yeah, no problem. Good night, Dave. Take care, and thank you everyone else for joining.
Yeah, thank you everyone who's been in the chat, everyone who's asked questions, everyone who's logged in and watched. Your participation. It's been greatly appreciated on a night when two of us have held the fort for an hour and a half, or the best part of. Cheers, guys.